through the upper Midwest here this morning with this is the infrared satellite loop. Higher, colder cloud tops indicate stronger storms and likely ongoing thunderstorms, precip, things like that. We had a bunch of rain move to the southeast overnight. That's going to move off to the southeast coast towards the end of today with his slate flooding risk, which I'll go over as part of the forecast. The big story in the short term really is the heat building back in the upper Midwest. And if you look at the heat index of Midwest, squarely in the crosshairs, and in the southeast, going to be hot again today. The heat risk isn't as bad as it was about a week or two ago, but you see as it moves eastward, especially in the Ohio Valley and the Iowa, Nebraska, especially in St. Louis area, where heat island effects is, of course, major cities is worse, and moves into the deep south, eventually cools off, then moves back into the desert southwest and the high plains, Wyoming, Montana, front range of the Rockies towards the end of the period here. Modeling the temperatures at the surface. This is EPS, which is a European Ensemble anomalies for temperatures, showing the deep, dark reds and whites. Standard anomaly above normal, which when you see these deep colors, that's really above normal temps. That's total number of hours out from the run here. So expected to be above normal in the Northeast, quite above normal in the far Northeast states. Cooling off some by the 25th, but overall above normal for most of the U.S. except for around the Great Lakes. Forecast to be a little bit cooler than normal in the Southeast and the upper Midwest along the Great Lakes. Along the West Coast here, but most of the U.S. will be above normal. Again, remaining above normal for most of the continental U.S. and staying that way, and forecast to stay that way. So overall, it's supposed to remain quite warm for most of the U.S., which, it is summer, but we hate to see that it's going to be above normal. At least it's not extreme, except for the first week or two. Height anomalies reflect the same thing. You see where the high pressure aloft, the height anomalies are the highest. The deepest colors here show where the highest pressure is aloft, which would lend itself to higher temperatures, of course, at the surface. It moves to the east. You see the high temperatures move towards the Midwest, and it kind of flattens out, and not a lot of intensity either way. And based on what I showed before, seems pretty accurate. So sensible weather. If we look at heat index, or let's look at how it feels to us out there, because, well, 24-hour temps max. Go through time here. Hottest temps, of course, where I showed before, 90s, 100s, pretty common for a good portion of the U.S. except for the Northeast. Of course, starting out, it's stuck. Yeah. Still not warmer in the northeast, but eventually it'll cool off. This is not helping me. It's kind of like spinning here. Sorry, guys. All right. Well, we'll move on. General theme. It's gonna be hot. Okay. Move over time. Upper Midwest gets warm again. Cools off on the northeast. Upper Midwest. Ohio Valley. 80s, 90s. In general, the Northeast and the Northern Tier is going to be cooler than it has been in recent times, and it's going to be remain probably close to normal for the Southeast. Nothing, too extreme really. At least that's what it looks like. Pretty common, except for desert Southwest can be hot, but not overall, not extreme by any means. So that's good news. Uh, let's look at the current radar here and current hazards. Well, a lot of hazards out of that right now, even though some flooding going on in the rivers here. Flood warning up here in extreme western North Carolina. Red flag warning up here in Wyoming. But overall, and some flood warnings, river flood warnings, some flood warnings up here in Minnesota. Overall, not a lot going on. Looks like out here they got a hurricane warning now for. Interesting. I wonder why. I didn't see that before. Interesting. Okay. Well, anyway, um, the current radar, we got some storms moving through up here, which I showed you on the IR satellite. Not a lot else going on here, really. For today's outlook for excessive rainfall along the southeast coast, marginal threat going all the way in the deep south, upper Midwest, and along the desert Southwest. Slight risk of excessive rainfall again up in the upper Midwest, along the southeast coast, along the not Florida, Texas coast, likely due to this moisture moving northward from this system here and desert Southwest. That moisture doesn't look to make it up into Texas, which is good news. Hopefully it won't. And desert Southwest along the southeast coast again, upper Midwest. Excessive rainfall moves, it stays up here in the northern states and into the desert Southwest for day 4, and along Florida here for marginal risk. On day 5, that threat shifts eastward, and marginal threat in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota stays in central Florida here, northern Florida, and the desert Southwest. So we'll have to see how this plays out, but we'll move on to severe weather chances today. Upper Midwest, Grand Forks, gradient crosshairs today, 15% risk surrounded by marginal risk, thunderstorms everywhere else. And if you look at the tornado outlook, 2% chance of tornadoes in this area today. Wind, 15, surrounded by 5% chance. And hail, hash risk, which is greater than 2 inches in diameter. Hail, then 15 miles, 25 miles to a point, and then a 15% risk with a 5% risk surrounding it. Day 2 hail risk moves further south. So is the wind risk, 5%. Tornado risk, no tornado risk tomorrow, at least right now. Go back to categorical, day 3. Nothing highlighted right now other than general thunderstorms. So the overall severe threat is on the low side. So future precipitation, we look at excessive rainfall today, then we look at the precipitation expected. You can see where the most is in the darker colors here along the Texas coast, along the southeast coast here, in the desert southwest and the upper Midwest, and along the northwest coast here where systems going on shore. Flooding risk, the excessive rainfall, total rainfall amounts, not excessive except for right along the coast here in the northwest. Really not extreme by any means, but when you move into day three, you can see where the highest precip chances are. Wisconsin, Michigan, back into the southeast again, and a good portion of the west here where the system is moving on shore. And we can see that from the upper winds pattern here in the EPS. This is European ensemble. That system is moving, has onshore flow up here in the north with some troughiness moving through. Another system moving through the northern tier here, skirting the north continental U.S. High pressure building in at the mid levels. The trough building back in over the northwest. Large high pressure over most of the U.S. And you can see Aaron down here moving through the flow with the trough off the east coast, trough off the west coast, high pressure in the central U.S. And as Aaron moves through this weakness, you see where it's showing it ends up. High pressure kind of moves off to the west a little bit, but the general flow stays to the north of most of the continental U.S. And this weakness kind of is enhanced by Aaron moving through there. Overall troughiness wants to maybe reestablish itself over the eastern U.S. in the long term here. So overall, not a lot going on from the large scale patterns. Of course, different mesoscale features, local features that can occur and hard to predict can impact the weather more than these large synoptic scale features. So keep an eye on your local forecast, things like that, to um, listen to forecasts from somebody like me, and I can show you right now what the forecast is going to be from Warren Robins. Slight chance of shallow thunderstorms, mostly every day this week, except towards the beginning of next week. Highs in the 90s each day, low in the low 70s. You can see here winds are coming out of the north and northeast, which, as that happens, likely won't get too awful hot. High in the 90s, low in the 70s. That's pretty close to normal for this time of year. So overall, rain chances are decreasing, although every day, here in Georgia, we almost inevitably get thunderstorms once in a while, depending on where you live, of course. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you all have a great day.